Today we're talking about the debut album from Machine Head, Burn My Eyes.
Let freedom ring with the shotgun blast!
Yesterday I discussed Machine Head's third studio album, The Burning Red, which divided a lot of people's opinions back when it came out, and that celebrated its 19th anniversary. Now today we're talking about the first Machine Head album, which celebrated its 24th anniversary. This album is Burn My Eyes, of course. Such a powerful album, a very strong album. One of the most hard-hitting groove metal albums there is. Now, a lot of people still regard this as Machine Head's best album. I would say it's one of, along with The Blackening and Under the Locust. I think that those three are the three must-hear Machine Head albums. Like, I personally think there's great songs on all Machine Head albums. Yes, even Supercharger. That had Deafening Silence and Blank Generation and Bulldozer and stuff on that. Had some good stuff on that. So I think that all Machine Head albums should be listened to at least once. Just, you know, and some of them take multiple listens to get into. Maybe that's why I'm such a fan. But Burn My Eyes is an album that I think you've got to hear because it's just so powerful. It's got various influences on it. It's so strong. I mean, The Blackening was the more progressive one. That was the more epic one. And Locust sort of carried that on, but in a different form. And they were both great as well. But a lot of people like Burn My Eyes, I think, because it wasn't, 9-10 minute epics. It was 4 or 5 minutes, straight to the point, really heavy groove metal tracks. And I agree on that. I mean, I love The Blackening and I love prog, I love the progressive stuff. But, I mean, this album's cool because it's just straight to the point. And the songs just don't overstay their welcome. And it's just a collection of great songs on this album. So let's get into the tracks, and then we'll talk about the album a little bit more afterwards. So the album kicks off obviously with Davidian, a classic Machine Head song. It's a live staple. If you're gonna listen to Machine Head, this is the song that a lot of people start with. Kicks off with a great drum fill from Chris Kontos, his name was. I think he left after illness, health problems or something, before Dave McClain obviously took it in for the second album, The More Things Change, and is still with them today. So this is Chris's only album with the band, and his drumming is fantastic on this album, and his drum sound is absolutely fantastic on this record. Starts off with a very cool drum fill, and it just goes into some monstrous riffs. And it's not that fast paced, it's just so groovy and heavy, and I really like this track because of it. And obviously with the classic Let Freedom Ring with the shotgun blast. So again, this song really is a monster to listen to. And then it speeds up, it goes to a bit of a thrashy section before doing the complete opposite, slowing down, going into this really dirty sludge sort of breakdown, and I love it. This is a great track. No matter how many times you hear it, you still just want to belt it out every time. It's a great track, and an amazing way to open the album. It really sets the scene for what you're going to hear throughout the rest of it. Next was Old. Now Old is another live staple from Machine Head. I think the Hello Live version on the Supercharger tour, if you haven't heard that version as well, check that out, it's amazing. When they play Old live, the room just erupts. Starts off with a little, just a simple rhythm part, and Bruce playing bass, Chris doing some tom rolls, and Robb Flynn does a little spoken part, and then it just bursts into this huge riff, which is just designed for rooms of people jumping. Goes into this massive groove metal riff, and riffs like this is why I'm so drawn to groove metal, because it's heavy, but it's there's something to grasp onto there, and it's just such a massive riff. And this song again, like Davidian, goes through different stages. I mean, it's got a slower section, then it speeds up, and it's very interesting. I like the chorus, it's a clean song, with that old man, dead hand part, and then Rob goes into the more shouty parts again, where he shouts "Jesus wept," and then it bursts into this riff again. So, like Davidian, I mean, it can take you different places, and it's a very anthemic song, and there's a lot of hooks in there, and it's a great track. Another absolute banger straight away. Third song on the album is "A Thousand Lies." Now I like this song because it starts off fairly slow, but it builds up into this big sounding chorus, the "A thousand lies been told 1,000 times" part, and yeah, this song's again, it's just heavy, it's so groovy, like the tracks before it, and this is a wicked track again, "A Thousand Lies," and I mean again, like the other two so far, it's got a big sounding anthemic chorus, and I love it. I think this is another really good song. How it can kick into life and reel it back in, and I like it. It's a great track. So next on the album is Number. Was it Number My Own? Yeah, it's Number My Own next. And the Hello I version of this is really good as well. Number My Own starts with it's quite a slow song throughout. It's pretty heavy, but it's more chuggy. It's a little bit more secluded than the first ones. I think it's not as intense and in your face as the first few tracks. But by the end, it goes into a really fast section with the My Heart Beats for Number My Own section, and it's very in your face and very aggressive, but it sort of waits to punch you in the face. It doesn't just do it straight away. And I like Number My Own, another good track. Next is The Rage to Overcome. Now this track never used to be my favourite on the album, but it has actually massively grown on me. It starts off with a very cool intro. There's Chris Kontos is doing tom rolls, and guitars are doing that sound that we've heard throughout Machine Head's career, the like high pitched pinch harmonic, and it's just a badass intro. Robb Flynn goes "yeah" in the background, and it's just badass. Then it bursts into another cool riff, some cool drumming again from Chris on this album, and this song's a little bit slower I think than the first four. I mean, especially the first three, and I like it. I mean, it's still heavy, but it's not so thrashy, and it's got another big sounding chorus with the Rage to Overcome section, and yeah, this is another cool song. Not the strongest on the album, but certainly one that I enjoy. And it's the same with the next track called Death Church. I think this was the first song written for the album. Death Church starts off with an intro that's quite eerie on purpose. It's got sort of voices that are edited and messed up a little bit, and they're sort of arguing, and it's pretty cool. And then it bursts into a cool riff. And this song's a lot slower. This song's a lot more sort of chuggy almost. And yeah, it's not one of the strongest on the album, but it is certainly a strong song, and one that I really enjoy listening to. And I mean, you'd be surprised if that this is the first song written, because you know, it's not as intense as a lot of the other ones on there, but it's still a very enjoyable track. Next is A Nation on Fire. Now, A Nation on Fire is starts off quite slow again, but again turns into this amazing thrashy song with the very fast-paced chorus. And A Nation on Fire is a fantastic song, perfectly combining like the quiet parts, building it up into these huge thrashy sections but yet still, even though it's fast, there's still a lot of groove in there. There's still a lot you can grasp onto. And yeah, Nation on Fire is a very, very strong track, and one that I definitely enjoy listening to over and over again. Whew, man, a lot going on here, isn't there? Next is Blood for Blood, another amazing track. Now, I've seen Machine Head play this once, and it is an eruption live. Blood for Blood is the thrashiest song on this album by a mile. One of the thrashiest things I think Machine Head have done. It's about 3 minutes long, just getting on to 4, and it's just so in your face. Some backing vocals from Adam Deuce, which works really well, where he shouts the Blood for Blood line and the Give Respect line as well. It starts off with a very cool intro, and it builds and builds and builds until it just erupts and it just goes crazy. And this is such a fast-paced track, and it is a really relentless track as well. I mean, it's very, very aggressive. But even though this track is so intense, you know, there's still something you can grasp onto there with the chorus part, and that's what I like about this album a lot. Is even though the music is heavy, it's still got groove to it, and it's still got, you know, things you can hear and understand and grasp onto, and hooks, and I really like that on this album. And Blood for Blood is a good example of that, because this is a very intense track, and but it's still groovy, which is very clever, I think. And yeah, Blood for Blood, I think this is more of a thrash song, and it's just awesome. But next is a very interesting one that I really like. It's called I'm Your God Now. Now, I don't know the actual meaning of that song. Maybe that's drugs, maybe that's an addiction of alcohol or something. I'm not entirely sure. But one thing I do know is that I'm Your God Now really helps to reel the pace back in. After that adrenaline rush of Blood for Blood and like A Nation on Fire, I'm Your God Now is very clever in doing what it does, because it's still heavy, but it kind of reels it back in. It's softer for the first couple of minutes. Now this is a point where I want to discuss the production, because the drum sound, especially on this album, is absolutely fantastic. It's got a very 90s drum sound to it. It sounds a lot like Pantera's drums did at points, sort of like Southern Train Kill time, and like 5 Beyond Driven time. But I love that sort of 90s groove metal sounds to drums. They just sounded huge, like larger than life, and they really do on this album as well. And when Chris is just grooving away at the start on the quiet part, it just sounds amazing. Which, I mean, the production really benefits this album as well, because it's got a very heavy production. Now, unlike the Burning Red, which I spoke about yesterday, it's not sort of a raw garage production. It's more of a well-produced, aggressive production. And I think that's important to note, because even though the Burning Red was a very aggressive sort of raw production, this album also feels very heavy, but it's well produced, and I mean it just sounds larger than life, and it's huge, and I'd say it has aged perfectly. Being since it's nearly 25 years old, it sounds amazing still. But anyway, I'm Your God Now. It starts off quite slow. After the instant thrill that is Blood for Blood, this song sort of reels it down a little bit. Keeps the listener on the toes, doesn't know where it's going to go. But it's got a big sounding chorus, and then the chorus bursts into life, and then it takes it back down again into these quiet parts, before it goes into more of a heavy section at the end. But I'm Your God Now is a really, really strong track, and one that I really enjoy. Next on the album was one of the cleverest titles, Realise, Real Lies, Real Lies. Now I've got to remember which way this goes around. So it's like realise, as in real eyes, realise, as in you must realise, and real lies, as in your life. So very cool song title actually. But realise, realise, realise. I'm just going to refer to it as realise because I hate repeating that 3 times. Realise is a song that I saw a couple of comments online about, on the video and stuff, saying, "Oh, this is a waste of a great riff. Could have become a kick-ass song, and instead it became this." This is a pretty short instrumental, but it fits so well where it does. Now, what it does, I really like this personally. I mean, I know other people may think differently, but personally, I really like it. And I think the reason I really like it is it's so groovy and so heavy, and it's a cool concept, because what it is it's a dark piece. It's a dark instrumental piece. It's pretty heavy, but what they've done is obviously voiced it over with sections from news reports and interviews and things like that. And it discusses various topics. It discusses gangs, discusses murder, it discusses racism, it discusses police brutality, and it discusses all these things. And all Robb Flynn says in the song is the title. The rest of it's all done by like news reports and things like that. And it works so well with the music. I mean, they did it later on Bloodstone and Diamonds with Imaginal Cells, but that wasn't half as good as this is. Because this song is just so good at doing what it does. I mean, it's cool because it sounds different on that perspective to the rest of the album. Even though the music sounds very similar, it fits perfectly. It's cool because it's a bit different from the rest of the album because of these, voiceovers over the top. And I think it's very clever. These audio files that they put on over the top sound amazing with the riff. Because it's a heavy riff, but it's also very groovy. And I think that when you hear all these things about police brutality and racism and gang violence, I mean it fits so well with the music. And I mean you can see that even though it is obviously it's far from a hip hop album, they explored that more later on. I think you can see the hip hop influence on this album. I mean, with the Davidian video, for example, and on this track here, where there's such an in-depth, view of all this shit going on in America, and it finishes with the line, "America needs to go through some sort of radical change," and I think that it's still appropriate today. There's still a lot of shit going on, and I personally stick up for this track because I like it. Now, the last song on the album is called Block, or was called Fuck It All, but I think the label wanted to change it. When I saw them play it in Birmingham earlier in the year, Robb Flynn actually did refer to it as Fuck It All. And it's a bad live song, but this is a great ending to the album because it's not overly... I love epic endings to albums like Farewell to Arms or Who We Are. I love big endings to albums, but this song, it doesn't do that. Instead, it's 5 minutes, it's heavy, it's super groovy, it sort of encapsulates what the whole album was about, and it's got a raw attitude to it from young men from California playing all this in like groove metal. And I think this song really sums up what the album is, and it's a perfect end to the album in my opinion. It's fast paced, it's got a lot of groove to it, it's got loads of riffs in it, loads of killer riffs. And a very big sounding chorus yet again with the fuck it all parts, and this is just another reason why I love this album. I mean, this album is laced with killer riffs, super groovy riffs and drums, catchy songs still. Even though their songs are heavy, they're still catchy. They're still something you can grasp onto. With the Let Freedom Ring with a Shotgun Blast, Jesus Wept, Fuck It All, things like that. And this is a perfect end to the album. The song finishes with Robb Flynn yelling "fuck it all," and then there's like a big wall of white noise, and it just cuts, and you're left thinking, "Wow, I've just listened to an amazing album." And if you're not, then you probably need to cheer up a little bit because this is a fucking awesome album. So, Burn My Eyes, it is the album that Machine Head. It was the album that people first heard from Machine Head because obviously it was the first thing, and. I mean, it set the bar pretty high for follow-up albums, and I think they struggled to top it. I think that the only time they got near it was Through the Ashes, and then when it got to the Blackening, I think it was, and the Locust Time, that was when they hit like their second wave of greatness. But I mean, it was followed up with The More Things Change, which is a decent album. The Burning Red, again, I thought that was a decent album as well. And then Supercharger, I mean, that was kind of weak in parts, but it had some good stuff on it. I still own it because I still like it. But Burn My Eyes set the bar really high for this band, and I mean I love it. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, and the reason I'm going to do that is because it's such a revolutionary album, I'd say. I mean it opened my eyes to how heavy music could still be so groovy and so melodic at the same time. Like, I mean it really did. It opened my eyes to music more, this album, and I absolutely love it. If you haven't heard Burn My Eyes, check it out. I mean, if you like Pantera and bands like that, they really do check out Burn My Eyes. A lot of people still consider it Machine Head's best album. I say it was definitely one of them, and it's definitely worth checking out. Burn My Eyes, you've aged very well, you're still fucking awesome, and I'm still going to listen to you again after this review, because I want to hear it again now I've spoke about it. Yeah, Burn My Eyes, wicked album. So yeah, thank you for checking out my review of Burn My Eyes. I absolutely love it, and I hope you do too, because it is a fantastic record. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the review, please feel free to subscribe. I mean, I'm trying to grow this channel. I mean, it's still very small, so I'd appreciate if you could subscribe and help it to grow. I'm going to be doing some frequent content now. And I mean, I'm gonna film another video hopefully tonight, and get another one out. So I've got other reviews on this channel. I've got the Burning Red that I did yesterday. I did Catharsis earlier on, and I've got other bands that you might be interested in as well. So yeah, thank you for watching.